Hello, 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 family. I am very excited for my guest that I have for you this evening. If you've ever heard a story that truly touched your heart, this was one that did this for me. I was watching the television screen and I was captivated by this very beautiful woman that you see here, Deidra Mayberry. But it wasn't just her physical beauty, it was her soul. It was her story. It was her dedication and perseverance for herself, and then how she turned that into success for others. Let me just welcome to here with me Deidra Mayberry. Hello, Deidra. How are you?
Good.
Let's put you off mute. There you go. Hi, Deidra.
Hi, how are you?
Oh my gosh, I just really cannot think of a better way to celebrate National Reach Your High as You Can Day. National Reach as High as You Can Day. Had you heard of this day prior to me telling you about it?
No, I haven't actually.
It's a thing. It's a real thing.
Yes, I was like, "Oh, well, that's perfect."
It is perfect, and I really feel like it was a gift from God. I definitely am a person that feels like I get God kisses, God hugs, God winks, however you want to say that. I believe in that, and I believe that this was Him saying, "You're doing the right thing. You're on the right path because you have been reaching as high as you could really throughout your whole journey. But then when you made the final decision that I'm going to learn how to read, I'm going to stop using all of my energy to hide what's breaking my heart, and I'm going to use my energy to change that."
Yeah, yes. Light
God,
bulb moment.
light bulb moment. But let's roll back. Let's roll back a little bit. So tell us how this journey began for you, because it's not as if you couldn't do sight words, right?
Correct, yeah.
All right. So kind of walk us through how it began and how you started realizing, uh-oh,
Yeah.
there's a problem.
Yeah, so, it's gonna go all the way back from when I was a young child. So,
Okay.
I'm a part of a military family, so we
Ah,
was around a lot. And, as kids, no one likes to be the new kid, right? No
mhm.
one you're just trying to have friends, you're trying to be liked, just all those things. And, I really think it just started with moving around a lot, maybe being a little more quiet and reserved, and, really just realizing that reading was a struggle. And, as kids, you don't always ask for what you need in the moment. And I
Right.
just don't know, like, how it got so far, from underneath me. But I just struggled. I had a speech impediment, actually. A lot of people don't know that. So
Mhm.
um, I had a speech therapist that came in one of my classes every day that just helped me. I stuttered so bad. um,
Okay.
and especially when I was excited. I remember my dad used to, I was like, baby, calm down, because I couldn't get out my words. But it just continued. And I think as you're really trying to fit that social mold,
Okay.
you stop asking for help, and I had a
Mm.
12 and a lot of my classes. And, my parents, I think, thought, oh, she just likes videos and, she just doesn't want to do her work. But I really struggled with reading. And
Okay.
I have a big family, so lots of siblings. So again, you don't want to be made fun of by your siblings. So you don't really say anything. You just kind of hide into the background. On game nights, I don't want to play. I didn't want
Mhm.
to do
Mhm.
anything because I really didn't want to be exposed. And that was really kind of the start for me.
Let's
So
hover. Let's stop. Hold on. We got
yeah,
to pause
hmm
because you really just said a lot for parents.
yeah,
When your child doesn't want to play games,
mhm.
when your child is spending so much time watching TV, what's something else that you said you didn't want to do or that you
Um,
did? at an early
So
age?
as far as just really just I didn't want to play games. I just kind of was really reserved. So I didn't want to
Mhm,
be
mhm.
exposed. I didn't ever want to be put in situations that like they would pick me to write or read or
Okay.
anything. So I just
Mhm,
always stayed to myself. So I probably came out more of as an introvert, but I really wasn't. But it was just like just different mechanisms to kind of hide what I had going on. Um,
mhm,
I wouldn't
mhm.
go to church. I never wanted to go to church because,
Oh.
back in the day, everybody goes to Bible study first.
That's
We
true,
just
that's right.
we go in a circle and everyone starts reading, and so I just, had this fake hate for church. So I never wanted to go. I always played sick, always had to go to the bathroom. I timed it just right. There was so much. Oh my
So
goodness.
you did a lot of girl, you are a ducking and dodging sister. You
You
were
have no
filled.
idea.
You look, you had evasiveness on,
Oh,
right?
listen, yes. Anyway, my mom used to always call me her moody child, and that was because I would be super excited, and once it got to something where I thought I was going to be exposed, I ought to like all of a sudden was like, I don't want to do it. I'm going to my room. I don't want to be here. And she's like, what
Wow.
happened? So yeah.
So there was some shame there.
Yeah, a lot of shame. Yeah.
Mhm.
It's so funny. No one knew this, right? We're talking about it now. But my self-esteem and self-worth was so low. It was non-existent. I just felt like I had
Mm.
nothing to offer. I was just so embarrassed. And you hear the things that, look at your circle, don't be the weakest link, the people you hang out with. So secretly I thought I was the weakest link, right? I thought,
Right.
man, I'm the weak link everyone's talking about. I'm the person they're saying don't be around. So that really, I think that helped me to hide it because I
Okay.
didn't want to be exposed. I didn't want to feel like I was bringing down the group or that I
Mhm.
wasn't worthy, right? So there were so many things, but shame definitely was that. Um, and yeah, it was huge. It was shame that followed me my whole life. So yeah.
Mm.
Mhm.
When did that shame lift up off of you? When did it lift from you?
So it started lifting probably in 2020 when I right before I shared. Yeah. So I'm going to be jumping all around, but it really
No,
wasn't.
that's fine. But the
Yeah.
reason why my mouth is just open because even after you
Mhm.
fix the problem, after you learn how to read, it still didn't go away.
Yeah. Well, because then you just kind of feel like you're behind. You know what I mean? Like you feel like you're
Yeah.
behind. And where I had made so many strides for myself, I still didn't feel like I was where I needed to be. Right. So, and there was still this shame of, man, what if people find out and what if they know? And,
Mhm.
people cannot be so nice at times. So,
Oh, are they?
still
It
wanting to
can
protect
happen.
that, because it's my story, it's my story, it's my emotions, it's my feelings, and I was afraid, and even when I was doing the work, secretly doing the work, I was ashamed hiding doing the work, but I was doing the work, right? And at
Mhm.
that point, it was just baby steps, and it wasn't until 2020 when we had launched the nonprofit and we were doing a campaign to like fundraise and raise money, and one of my really good friends, she was like, girl, you don't want to hear this, so I'm gonna tell you. And I was like, what's up? She was like, you got to be all in. And I'm like, I am all in.
Mm.
What do you mean? She's like, you got to share your personal story. And I was like, no, I ain't sharing my personal story. It's for me. It's not for anyone else. Why can't I just be passionate about this work? And she was just like, you have to share your story. You have to give light to it. You have to, remove that shame. And I really thought about that and I was like, okay, let's do it. And it was then when I shared and people didn't respond like I thought they would. When
Mhm.
people were, so kind and they were so like just gracious,
Mhm.
it started lifting up. And it really wasn't until I had an opportunity to do a news interview and the phone was ringing off the hook and everyone kept calling and I was answering the phone. I was overwhelmed because I'm like, I'm just sharing my business. Like I shared it on
Mhm.
TV, like no. And everyone had the same messaging. I've been waiting for something like this my whole life. This is amazing. And in that moment, I really had an out of body experience. And it was, you have been hiding while they have been waiting for you. So
Wow.
there's power in sharing. And I didn't know that so many people shared in my experience. And I thought, I was the only one, right? We always think it's only me, only my life isn't fair. This thing is just happening to me. But to see that so many others really shared in my story, shared in my experience, shared in my limitations, shared in my shame, it was me giving power to that. And it was me letting them know, yeah, we've carried this shame. This is what our story was, but it doesn't have to end here. And that gave me so much power, and it helped to start lifting some of that shame. But even, I still, every time I talk about my story, there's a little bit of that that tries to creep up and be like, oh, what are people going to say? What are the comments? I don't read comments. I just don't read them because I just decided don't read the comments because I don't ever want to shy away from continuing to share, continuing to be hope for someone,
Mhm.
and continuing to do the work. So, yeah.
Has anyone ever found out your secret other than when you told them?
No. Excuse me? No, ma'am. I worked so hard at hiding. Come on. And if they did, they never said anything. But
I'm
you
gonna
better
have the
believe.
CIA call you for your tactics.
Huh?
I'm gonna have the CIA call you for your tactics.
Right. It was like, it was so sad. When I look back at all the things I did to like maneuver out of stuff, oh my goodness. I'm tired. I'm tired thinking about all I had to do. And that's why one day I was like, I'm working so hard to hide it. What if I work just as hard to fix it? And then then it's gone and then it's better. But no, no one knew that I was aware of. No one shared if they knew. And even as I still share, and as friends that I went to school with in college were like, I had no idea. And I'm like, that was the idea. You weren't supposed to know. Like I worked so hard I just worked so hard to hide it. But then I think about how much time was wasted in hiding, how much
Mm,
time um, and how I didn't feel worthy and how I wasn't a part of different things because I didn't want to be
okay.
exposed. You know what I mean? Like it took me a long time to go to church because I was
Aw.
afraid of, I didn't want to be made fun of at school and then made fun of at home and made fun of at church. Like I was just like, no, like how do I just hide it? So I was behind. I was behind because I was hiding. Hmm.
Okay. So I'm curious. There is stuff that we share with our intimate partners, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Did you ever share that, reveal that like to your intimate partner, your husband, fiance, or whoever it is that you were with? Did you ever reveal that?
I've been single most of my life. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
No, and that's been part of it, I think. I don't want to say nothing really lasted because of that, but I really felt like I had really low self-esteem and self-worth. And I thought that if I did get into a deep partnership with someone, they wouldn't accept me. Like it would be over
Mhm,
before it started. So even that was hidden. But when do you have to really share those things, right? Like there's
mhm,
ways around it. So if we were going out to eat or different things, it was always the famous, so what are your specials today? What do you recommend?
mhm,
All of
mhm.
that. But I spend the majority of my life single, so didn't have to really
You're
worry.
so pretty. You're incredibly pretty. So, you know what? I'll tell you a secret.
Yeah, let me
It's
hear.
not a secret. It's not going to be a secret for long. But I'm having Houston's Millionaire Matchmaker on next week. Yeah, next week. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I'll
Are
tune
you? No,
in.
you're in Dallas. You're in Dallas.
I'm jealous. Yes, I
You're in
am.
Dallas. I'm going to
Yeah.
show her this video because you are gorgeous.
Thank
Wait
you.
a minute, gorgeous and single? Is that true?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh my. Anyway, you have such amazing, powerful energy. Maybe, I can, you know, I will tell her I have an executive for you.
You're so funny. Okay, I'm open.
Okay. Okay. I digress, but I'm just saying a girl's got to look out for another girl.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
My pleasure. But anyway, so let's rewind. Let's
Okay.
rewind to the first man who loved you deeply, and that was your father.
Hmm. Yeah.
At some point in this journey, you confessed to your dad.
Yeah. Hmm.
How did that conversation go?
So, your parents, they get the calls from the school.
Ah,
So, in that, so my dad moved around a lot. So, because of the military, so there were times that we were stationed with him, times that we weren't. And I think it was that point where, I remember asking for help and I was like, Daddy, I don't know how to spell this word, but go look it up. And I would be so upset. And I'm like, how am I gonna look it up if I can't spell it? Like, and that was always his
Right,
go look it
right.
up in the dictionary. And I would be so angry, so angry. And I would just fumble through. But and in that, one day when it was the sixth grade. I had all 12s in my classes within the first semester. So my dad
And you're
happened.
saying all 12s. What is all 12s? Because I come from ABC.
Okay, yeah. So you get if you show up, you don't get a 0, you get a 12.
Oh, and so how do they, I mean, 12. I mean, what grading system is that? I don't know this grading
So
system.
basically, I mean, it was an F, but
Oh,
in there,
okay.
you know how you have a number grade. So if you have an 80, that's a B, a 79 is a C,
Oh, okay. Okay. Got
So
it. Got it. Got it.
like they couldn't give me a 0 because I showed up for class, essentially. So
Wow.
I had 12s in all of my classes except for PE because I'm good at PE. But outside of that, all 12s in my classes. So I got put in special ed. And I was just embarrassed. I don't really think I thought about like, the material. I was just like, oh my God, my friends are going to see me going to this class. What am I going to do? So I was
Mhm,
tardy
mhm,
every day. I was just in unnecessary trouble because I was trying to hide, like a whole lot just hiding. But and so after being in the class, I didn't think about it. So I was doing great. I had like 100 in special ed. So I thought, oh man, I'm good. I'm not getting in trouble. They're not taking away TV time. Because I think for them, they just thought, oh man, she's lazy. She doesn't want to do anything. And then obviously, when my dad, going to the meetings, he found out, okay, well, she struggles with something. And I really just struggled with reading. I've never, didn't read a lot of books, like any of that. Um,
mhm,
and then it wasn't until like as we were, the work was just easier as you're going through it. So again, he was gone, so I was just getting help from the teachers in the class. Where my mom was present, but again, I had 7 siblings that lived in the house at a time. So my mom was working like 2 to 3 jobs, so she was just always on the go, just trying to make sure we had the best, right? So finally, when we had those conversations, so my dad knew, and I just avoided talking about it. He never talked to me about it in front of my other siblings. But it
mhm.
wasn't until I realized, man, I'm not really learning anything. I'm learning the same things that I started getting concerned. And I told my dad, I was like, look, you got to pull me out these classes because I ain't learning anything. And I was afraid that I wasn't going to be set up for success as an adult. So, and I think
Okay.
that was probably the hardest conversation because my dad was like, Deidra, everything says you need to be in these classes. So I'm just looking at him in like devastation because I'm like, oh my God, he's going to keep me here. And like, I'm about to go to ninth grade. Like, I've already been here for 3 years. And I felt like I was just learning the same things. And at that time, so this was back in 1999. And it just looked different. They had everybody in the same class and we all had different needs. So
Okay.
it was just harder, right? It was just harder to kind of navigate through. I believe it's much different now, but then we were all in the same class. So regardless of what your thing was, it was all in one class and you had 2 teachers trying to figure it all out. So um, it was then that, we were in like an ARD meeting and my dad asked if he could talk to me alone. So they stepped out.
Mhm.
And my dad was like, Deidra, everything says you're supposed to be here. And at this time, I'm like bawling. And he was just like, but if you do your part, I will match your effort. He was like, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be hard, but I will pull you out and put you back in regular classes. And I was like, okay. Well, I paused for a little bit because I was thinking, okay, what does my part look like? So we decided to move forward. So I got pulled out. So when I went on to ninth grade, I was in regular in the general ed classes again, and I wasn't in any more special ed classes. And it was in that journey that we kind of had our own like special bond because it was
Okay.
like my mom knew, she never talked about it with me, but like my siblings didn't know. So it was a thing that me and my dad knew. We knew that it was something I struggled with and something we were working towards, and it was just doing that work. And it was anytime, there was moments of frustration because my dad's not a teacher, but he did his best. So there was moments where I'm like, well, I don't understand, and I didn't always agree with what he would tell me to go do. Go look it up, go write it 100 times. I'm like, why? Why do I got to do that? And I would be so irritated by that. But I saw what he was doing later in life, not in that moment. And it was then that, God, he just truly was a support system. Like, there were a lot of moments I wanted to quit and I wanted to give up. And there was a lot of moments that I think, based off of where I was, my story was already written for me. And the one thing that he always gave me was like, you're in control of your own story. You are in control of how this ends and what it looks like. And it was just a drive when I didn't want to do it. And he'd be like, okay, cry. We're gonna go back at it again tomorrow. And so that was kind of, there wasn't a big reveal of like, this is what's going on, but it was in that moment that it was a life-changing moment for me. Like, I stay in these classes or you pull me out, and just kind of what that looks like.
So you didn't tell him, he
Hmm.
actually broke it to you
Hmm. Hmm.
because he was looking at the data.
Hmm. Yeah.
He was looking at the data. I just want to take the time out to welcome our live chat, welcome Empress Janet and Les and Jeremy and Steve and just, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for hanging out here with me. I am here with Deidra Mayberry. She is a successful executive director of really a journey. She's the executive director of her journey. She is the executive director for a journey for others who are taking the time as adults to learn how to read. And she's doing this because she made the decision for herself. And right now, she's sharing that story with us, and it's just been amazing. It's very intricate. Just to catch you up a little bit, there has been some shame. There has been some creative I don't know, tactics to hide this way of not knowing how to read. And somehow perhaps there's been a lack of romance. Is that
Hmm.
true? Did I
Yeah.
understand that right?
Yeah. Hmm.
So not learning how to read at the appropriate time really affected you.
Hmm. Yeah.
Really.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mhm. And you know what? I would be remiss if I didn't say this. It even affected your relationship with God. Is that true?
Hmm. Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. And that's really one of the biggest drivers of the nonprofit. I know we're not there yet, but I
mhm,
think about, like, reading is an essential skill that you need for life. And
mhm,
it limits you in your work, it limits you in your day-to-day, just normal things like paying bills, the doctor. Even it can, limit you in just any type of spiritual or religion journey that you're going on for whatever reason that may be. And for me, just the importance of how many people are limited, how many people are not fully functioning in the purposes that they have here because they lack
mhm.
such an essential skill. And I'm speaking from my own experience of I was running away to not be
Okay.
exposed. Hmm.
Wow. And so your organization, your nonprofit, Reading to New Heights, you founded this with your business partner in, is it 2020?
2020, yeah. Hmm.
Okay. You said, I know what, it's a pandemic. Here I go. Is that how it went down?
No, you would not believe. So it was March 12th, and we were like, we're doing it. Paperwork's already in. Let's go. And the next day, we're on lockdown. And I was like,
You,
Lord, why
oh,
are we still
wow.
doing this? And in that moment, me, I questioned because, this was my plan when I was 55, not
Mhm.
35, right? So I was like, oh, I was gonna do this like later, right? So I was like, well, if we have to hold off, we can. And this friend's like, no, 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 now. And then in that moment where I was really talking to God, I was like, why now? Like,
Mhm.
why is this, the case? And it was one of those things to where if not now, then when? And,
Mhm.
we're so passionate about the work that we wanted to do. Like a pandemic didn't matter. And I think for me, it was really, I was still, there was still so much shame. Are you going to do it anyway? Are you going to do this
Okay.
work anyway? So a part of me, it was another excuse for an out. It was a creative out, right? It would have been a creative
Mhm.
out, but it was just like, no, let's do it. And I know that if it wasn't for, at this point where this was the second person I personally shared with, that was like, oh, let's go, let's do this thing. I wouldn't have done it. It still would have been a goal at 55. Like, oh, once I retire, we'll do this work. I won't even care what people think then. I care what people think now. So it's one of those things that was really hard to just kind of really step forward.
So you are going to continue to delay love, relationship with God, and all this burst of development until you were 55. Did I hear that right?
Yeah. Well, that was for the nonprofits. I always knew I wanted to do something with adults. But at this
Okay.
point, I had already shared. I found courage to share with one of my like sweet friends that just loved on me and tutored me. And so that just built confidence already. So I felt like, okay, I could do this. I could share. That's how I shared with my other friend, because I already had the confidence to share, because everything I was afraid that would have happened, well, she's like, oh, I don't want to be her friend because she's just, not the sharpest or whatever. All of my fears, it was the opposite. She embraced me. She's an educator. So she was just like, as an educator, I'm so sorry. And I was just like bawling. And I was like, oh, okay, okay. So it just gave me courage. And then as we started doing the tutoring, I realized there were just a lot of gaps, a lot of gaps and holes. So it just gave me so much confidence. And I think to hear like, man, you got this, you're doing good, I'm so proud of you. It just helped, it just really, it poured in a lot. Like, and I'm really grateful for that.
You know what? Shout out for sisterhood. Shout out for girl
Yeah.
power. I'm loving that because so often you hear the stories of how women are sometimes catty with one another and
hmm
they are competitive with one
hmm
another. But here you are, you revealed one of your most, one of your life secrets, right? This was a life secret.
Yeah.
And not only did she handle it with care, but she helped you and empowered you. And
hmm
so, yay, friend, yay,
Yay. Yeah. So
that is a very good friend. Um, and so what was the process of you learning how to read? What was that process like?
lots of tears. Like, I'm not
Mhm,
kidding. Like, that's there. Lots of tears. Really lots of shame. Like, lots of shame, just even starting the lessons, having to talk through. I think in like the assessment, there were times I
mhm,
couldn't even get through it because I was just so embarrassed. Because it's someone
mm,
that's my peer, that's my age. So I was just like, oh God, this is gonna know all of. And I think a lot of times I was in my own head.
okay.
And it was really just starting from the basics. It was starting from the
Mm,
elementary, like fundamental, the foundations of all things. And it that was the start, and having to accept like this is the start. She's not looking down on me. This is necessary.
mhm,
It was a lot of mental talk I had to have with myself.
mhm.
Some of my lessons, I literally, I kid you not, cried through the whole thing. Like, just cried.
Wow.
We didn't work on anything. I just cried, and she was patient. Like, okay, well, we're not listening today. But it was just so heavy, like just shame and embarrassment. And yeah.
You know what? Let me give you kudos for pushing through that
Mhm.
and for not being offended because she had to train you, right? She
Mhm.
had to develop you. And in doing that, there was corrective criticism.
Mhm. Yep.
You had to be open enough to receive that.
Yep.
You
Yep.
had to allow, you had to be vulnerable enough to receive that help and development. Um, and sometimes I know what it is for people to reject your help. It's like, I would help you, but you're blocking me.
Yeah. Yeah.
You won't let me help you.
Yes. Yeah. And I think everyone experiences it. Everyone has their thing. It just looks different. And but you're right. And there were moments I felt, again, I was working through like self-worth. So and there were some
Mhm,
moments I just felt unworthy.
mhm,
And I think that's where the tears came from of just like, why are we even doing this? Like, am I even gonna get it? Um, and then so for me, when I was learning E and I, the sound,
mhm.
you always you learn the E first and I would be good. And then as soon as you threw in the I would get confused because they're very similar. And I would just,
Okay.
and it was always at that point, that would always be my wall that I would just like
Wow.
slow down progress.
Mm,
And it was just in that and her getting creative to just like, okay, let me do it a different way. Let me help you listen again. And it wasn't just like, no, no, wrong, wrong. It was like, hey, try again, listen, think of something, and it was just those pieces of the English language is hard. Okay. It is
yes,
so
yes.
hard.
Uh-huh. Absolutely.
It is hard. And it's hard when you already have had to find ways to kind of navigate through. So
Mhm,
you're dealing with like what you just know to be because you know it to be, and what you're phonetically trying to understand and how it's trying to all make sense.
mhm.
Um, like phonetically, my name is Deidra, and I was devastated. I was like, "Oh my god, my name has not been my name my whole life." And she's like, "Calm down, it's still Deidra, but phonetically, it's Deidra." And I was like,
Okay.
so I shouldn't be offended when people mispronounce my name. Got it? Okay.
Okay.
So
That
it
makes
just
a lot of
yeah.
sense.
So the English language is just it's just hard. So it was a lot of restarting. It was a
Okay.
lot of tears. It was a lot of questions. I feel like as adults we can be the worst students because we have so many questions, and that's where the
Absolutely.
children are sponges. They just suck it off. They just take, okay, yeah, sure, I'll take, because you said so, yes. As adults, we're like, why? Well, that doesn't make sense here. And what about here? And so
Wait a
there
minute.
was a
What is
time,
that phrase? Make it make sense. Everybody's saying it. Make it
yes,
make sense. That's
yes.
what they're saying these days.
It's so funny. My friend who did my tutoring, I'm gonna get her a shirt that says "Make it make sense" because that's her thing. So,
Okay.
but
Fair
yeah.
enough. Fair enough. Thank you for joining us, everybody. We are here with Deidra Mayberry. She is the executive director of Reading to New Heights. She learned to read at 28. She was powered by her dad to help her get through not only high school, but college. Recently, she shared her story on the Emmy winning Kelly Clarkson show. Fabulous. Tell us about this experience. Tell us about, your journey here. Break it down.
Yeah, so in all transparency, through starting a nonprofit during COVID, it has not been the easiest. We
Mm-hmm.
have been putting a lot of our own resources, just working tirelessly, but we are so passionate about what we're doing, we're just going for it. So I was at work, my full-time job right now, and I
Wait a
was just
minute, stop right there. Give it to them seriously because when you are a startup, you have a full-time job and
full-time.
you have
Yes, yes,
your
mhm,
passion project, which is, the nonprofit.
yes.
So you are
Listen, it is not for the faint at heart, okay? At
you are
all.
working double time.
Yes, yes. So, so I was just at work, just a little discouraged, like, okay, the Lord send me a wink, like, am I on the right track? Is this what you want from me right now? Like, why is it taking so long? There's a whole pandemic outside, like, all the things, and just
Mhm.
kind of really hitting, just a place of tiredness, to be completely honest. And my business partner called and was like, "Hey, I answered your phone by accident, and someone from the Kelly Clarkson show, they said it was their producer." And I'm like, "Give me the number, give me the number, let me call back." And when I called, they had seen my story on Fox 4. Where we on our own story. Are you available for an interview? Listen, I was at the job. I was not available for an interview, but you better believe I was available for an interview. So we had
Okay.
jumped on a Zoom in like
You were
an
using some
hour.
vacation time, PTO, something.
I went to my look. I gotta go. Something came up, but so jumped on that where they do like the interview, and we're just going through. And the question that I always get people, it's really hard for people to understand that I couldn't read, but I went to college. So
Mhm.
so that came up, and We could talk through it, whatever the case is. I get a call from the senior producer, and he's like, just help me understand. Like, I just don't understand. Like, you couldn't read and you went to college, and it's just one of those things. I'm like, okay, hold on, sir. Listen, I didn't say I was on the dean's list. Like, I made C's, but that
Mhm.
was good enough for me. So just kind of walking through the story. So there were a lot of calls to really talk through the story,
Okay.
and to really understand. It never changed because it's my story. And then
Right.
after that, there was a delay. So I thought, oh man, they don't want me. And I was super discouraged because I was like, oh, maybe, they changed their mind. So I went another like 2 weeks. And little did I know is it was just a little holdup because they were trying to get my friend who tutored me on. But through all things, it just didn't work out with scheduling and things. So they ended up moving forward with me without her. And I didn't know that at the time. So, went, was able to share my story. And I think just the whole point, like my prayer that year was just how do we get awareness out? How do we help to remove the shame? How do we just get people talking about it? How do we get the exposure? Because people aren't talking about it. Adults are not being like at the bus stop, like, hey, I can't read well, just so you know, like that's not happening. So,
It's absolutely not happening. I want to
yeah.
pause right here
Hmm.
because you went to college and you graduated
Hmm.
college, and some people get hung up on the idea of I can't, or they don't do well in the class, and they kick college to the curb.
Yep.
And so I just want to go back to your will,
Yeah.
Deidra Mayberry's will, to continue pushing forward. That is a really big deal. It is not that we fall down, it is that we fail to get back up. And what I
Mhm.
love about your story is
Mhm.
that you have endurance and you just kept getting up and building your muscles so that you can climb over the obstacles that were put in front of you. And I just love that. Family, click like and click share, quick click sub here on our new home at Coach Love and the crew. We need that. We're building this channel up, so please do that. But I'm so thankful that you are watching us in LinkedIn land, in the small groups land. I'm sending you my love and support. Deidra Mayberry, who is the executive director at Reading to New Heights on this fabulous day that I have here, National Reach as High as You Can Day. I'm really kind of floored about that. I cannot believe that I have you here on National Reach as High as You Can Day, because you certainly do that. Can you tell me around how many people is Reading to New Heights helping at this point?
Yeah, so right now we are actively helping about 25 adult learners, and a
Mm-hmm.
lot of that is just due to we're helping 25, but we have a waiting list of 95.
Wow.
So we're helping 25 because that's all that we can do with our resources that we have, and
Mm.
that's really
So
our
what
big.
do you need? What do you need to help more people?
Yeah, so we need we need to hire instructors. So of
Mhm,
course, the big plan we have is yes, it's going to be volunteer. It's going to be great, but the need is so great
mhm.
that volunteer only does not work because it's an at will base. So you're dealing
Right.
with like I only can do this time, these days, and that's it. And we're grateful for that. And our volunteers have
Mhm.
been so amazing, and they've been helping us through that. But when I get those calls, I really need this, I need the help, and I know I don't have anyone else for them. So we only use certified educators. So like I said, we started in 2020. If you know any teachers, they will tell
Nobody
you I
was
could
coming
not pick
outside.
up anything right now. So even my tutors are like, you better be glad you asked me before we knew a pandemic was coming, because they're like, no, I cannot take any more, only the ones that I have. Um, so we really have to have we have to have paid instructors that we can control and know we're going to have them 40 hours a week, so that we can be able to serve just the people that are in need. And that's our biggest thing. And I think that's what's heartbreaking for me, as we shared this problem, we give you this great solution, but we tell you, oh no, I can't help you right now because we're at capacity.
So I
um,
have a question. Do you give any tools to the people who are on your waiting list? How does that work?
Yeah, so on the waiting list, we'll do an assessment just to kind of see where they are, and then there's different things that I'll suggest. Some of it costs, but they're
Mhm.
great tools. But I'll like there's just some different tools that we let them know, or different YouTube channels, or just different things that they can be doing in the time while we're trying to. But it really
Mhm.
wasn't until after the Kelly Clarkson that it just skyrocketed up the
Yeah,
waiting
yeah.
list. So I was just like, okay, so we need to figure this out. But we tried to. But again, what people fail to realize is like it's hard to teach yourself. It's hard
It
to,
is.
and that's always kind of the question. Like people are like, oh, they're just lazy, they don't want to. No, from someone from experience, I've signed up for you name it. I've signed up for it, but you get to a point where you can't teach yourself. You don't know if you're doing it right. You don't understand.
Mhm.
Yes, you can practice, but you really need that support and that reassurance that you're doing it right. And I'm like, well, I don't know. Well, did I say that word right? I have no idea because no one's there to confirm that I did or not. So,
Mhm.
so even with resources that we can give, it still it still takes a little more than that. It still takes theory behind it. It still takes explaining and understanding behind it. So yeah.
You know what? You and I talked through some tricks that you put forth, tricks of the
Hmm.
trade,
Yeah.
and one of them was turning on the
Yeah.
captions.
Baby, listen. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So that was my trick, especially as a kid. Like I told you, I watched a lot of TV. It was my way to just, you know, stay in the loop, and to be able to have conversations and to be able to hold conversations with people. I would watch it, and then there was a time I was like, I should put the subtitles. The subtitles were on by accident one time, and then I
Okay.
was like,
Okay.
oh, and I was able to like hear and see, and that helped me. So visually, oh, okay, they said this, and then I just everything is subtitles. So I'm now I don't do mute in subtitles. I do now in certain things, but mainly it's volume and subtitles. And that was my trick, and that was what helped me to be able to recognize words and to be able to hold a conversation. And I would always have to reference, oh, and like in this movie that I saw, and they're like, oh,
Mhm.
yeah, actually, I did that a lot with my tutor when she would be teaching me different things. Like, oh, like in this movie, because that's where my mind went. That's where my knowledge. Yeah. Mhm.
Mhm. And so, um, there's just something important about seeing the mouth
Mhm.
move and seeing the word
Mhm.
on the screen,
Yeah.
like the sh sound,
Yep.
you
Mhm.
know. You keep seeing that SCH, because
Mhm.
SCH is a sound, but it's not a letter,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And seeing that in a word, it's like, oh, that's what that is.
Yeah.
So
Uh-huh.
that's the kind of light bulb
Mhm.
that comes on. Richard just made the point. He said that your journey is truly real and continuing because there are so many folks who are low key sharing the same struggle.
Mhm.
And we can't make people say, just remove the shame off of it because it doesn't really work that way.
Mhm. Yeah. It's and that's what, like I said earlier, everyone has their thing, whatever their
Mhm.
thing is. Everyone has that thing. And I'll go here because we're all adults. Like if you're an
Mhm.
alcoholic, you're not
Okay.
waving your flag to be like, oh, I'm an alcoholic and I'm going to AA. Like it's
Right.
shame, it's hidden. People might pick up something like, oh, well, it kind of smells like you had a lot to drink yesterday, or whatever that looked like. But no one is sharing those things. It's their thing. It's something they're not proud of. It's something they're working through. They're trying to work through. They're failing through it, whatever that looks like. But it
Mhm.
doesn't take away that it's a real thing, right?
It's a real thing.
And it's no different from if you have abandonment issues, or if you can't read, or if you have a condition where your hair, like whatever that looks like. Everyone has their thing that is personal, near and dear, that they don't want to wave their flag and let everyone know. Everyone has a comment about everything, an opinion, and not really
Mhm.
realizing that it can be hurtful. and it can keep people where they are. And you hear when people are like, oh, and when you hear other people make fun and jokes, it doesn't give you courage to stand up and share. You're like, oh, well, I don't want them to find out about me, so let me just hide in the back.
Let's keep hiding. Let's keep it. Let's
Yes,
keep it under the covers.
yes.
We're going to throw it under the rug, and that rug is just going to get real bumpy. It's going to get really, really bumpy.
Yes. So we all have it, and it's easy to say, to talk about the thing you don't struggle with, but we all have something that we're ashamed of, that we're working through, that we need courage through, that we need support through. Um, and I think that is important to highlight and to celebrate. And why not better ourselves? Why not, be afraid to say, yeah, I'm not really great at that, but here's what it is, and this is what it looks like, versus having to work so hard to hide it, because it's not helping anyone, and it's a mental drain. And I can tell you that from personal experience. Like, I'm tired. I was
Wow.
just tired. So yeah.
Wow. I just want to say this. If you join us on our YouTube channel, you can get there by going to CoachEricaLove.com, and that's Erica with a K. You can take our poll question, and it is do you know anyone who can't read? Right now, we're at 50-50. 50% of the people are saying yes, and 50% of the people are saying no. But I would like to get some more entries into that poll. I want to see how it ends. I want to see how it ends up, because overwhelmingly, you're not the only one.
Yeah. And I think that was not a surprise, because I really like the reason why I do this work is I don't want anyone to experience what I have, because I know the life of
Mm-hmm.
limitation and just hopelessness that it was. But to
Mm.
realize that there's so many people out there, and I'm not saying I'm special, but I'm a little different. But my dad would always tell me, he'd be like, baby, you are my like most stubborn child. Like, if you have something in your mind, you believe it and you are just going to do it. And where
Mm-hmm.
everything, where I should have just fell back, gone with the flow, and didn't try to better myself, I was determined to do that because I didn't want someone else to write my story for me. I don't want someone else to say, because of this. I don't know if you know about this statistic, but based off of where you read in the third grade level, that's
I
how
do.
they project how many bed cells that they need in jail.
Yeah.
And that is
Absolutely.
devastating.
They're
And the
building a
third
jail
grade,
for you before they're building. They are building a jail before they're giving you support on learning how to read,
yeah. So
because
that's
they feel more assured
devastating.
in that outcome.
Yes, that's devastating.
Mm-hmm.
So in that, like, I literally, like, this journey has been so emotional and hard. Like, you have no idea. But in like looking at these things, because it's I share in it, I'm like, oh my goodness, like, and at that point, why do we write people off so fast? Why is
Mm-hmm.
it, what, there's no good, and that's one of the opportunities we have with funding from a nonprofit standpoint. We really fit under education, but
Okay.
anywhere you go, they think education is K through 12. So, and it's that
Mm-hmm.
mentality of let's build into the next generation. But what people fail to realize is that adult parent has direct access to the next generation, and
Mm-hmm.
what their standards are, what they're pouring in. And not saying everyone's equal, because some people do push through, and even if they struggle, they want better for their children. But some people don't know how to give what they don't have. So then it continues the cycle.
You
There
know
is
what?
not.
I love that you said this. Some people don't know how to
Mhm,
give what they don't have.
mhm,
When we were talking the other day, this came up that Ben Carson,
mhm,
he is a famous surgeon. He actually was a part of the Trump White House,
mhm,
and he ran for president too. A lot of
mhm,
a lot of big deal things, right? But his mother did not know how to read.
mhm. Yeah. She would have them writing reports, grading it, underlined, and she was just doing it. Couldn't even read what it said, right? But
Right, look, Mama was a good actress. Wait a minute,
she
she
one
went
up
to
me.
yes, well, yeah, she went to the same the psychology school you went to, the tricks
Mhm.
and traps and trade. She's like, I don't know how to do it, but I'm gonna teach you how. I'm gonna trick you into doing it.
Yes. Yes, so and what people realize, like, not everyone has that. Some people
Right.
are hiding in their own shame that they
Uh-huh.
put that on other people. Well, if I couldn't do it, they can't do it. I'm not gonna pressure them. Just graduate high school, that's enough. Well, why?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mhm.
but you can't fault them for not being able to give what they don't have. And there
Right.
being so much
You can't
shame.
pour from an empty cup. You have to get it.
Yes.
You have to do something. You
Yes.
have to do something.
Mhm.
Let's talk about going to get something because Jeremy Cash, he says, having a good mentor goes a long way,
Yes.
one book at a time.
Yep. Mhm.
It is okay to start reading in children's books.
Yes. Mhm. Yes.
That
Yes.
is okay.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
know, truly one book at a time, you begin to learn new words. And it
Mm.
is something about just that focus,
Yep.
the focus of reading new words and training your brain.
Yep. And then
Uh,
and the fluency of
that.
doing it as well, you know?
Mhm,
Mhm.
mhm,
And the pictures help, you know? So, but yeah, but even in that, it's okay, but even that for an adult, it takes a lot mentally to be like, "Okay, I'm about to grab this children's book that I can't get through." You know what I mean? Like, and
yeah,
in that, so it's that's why a mentor is so important as well to just
mhm,
cheerlead and champion you on, and what does that look like? And I was doing Dork Diary, so just different things, and Dr. Seuss, and just whatever to just get into the fluency of what that looks like. So um, I wholeheartedly agree. Like, children books are okay. It's a good start.
mhm,
And getting past the embarrassment, like, lie, say it's for your nephew or your baby. Oh yeah, I'm picking up this book
mhm,
for my kid. So I think you just think everyone knows, oh, this is for me. I have to hide it. It's just so silly.
mhm.
But we go there. Mentally we're there, and we're trying to hide and fit in and be accepted, and all those
Well, let me
things.
just speak into your future
Yeah.
that this woman who didn't know how to read until she was 28 will
Mhm.
one day be an author and someone will be reading
Oh,
her books. Wouldn't
okay.
that be wonderful?
That would
You heard
be.
it here first, folks. You heard it here. Breaking news.
Okay. Look, I'll let you know. I'll let you be one of
Mhm.
the forward writers.
I would love it. I would absolutely love it. It would be my great honor. Yeah. You heard it here first, everybody. You know, um, what I found so interesting about your story is that your dad
Mhm.
looked at you and he said, and looked at the situation and said, "We have this problem," and he
Mhm.
did everything to help put the pieces together for you.
Mhm.
But I said, why didn't he teach her how to read?
Mhm.
Where was that gap? Help me understand that.
That's a great question. The first time it's ever been asked. And really and truly, like, the thing that really comes to mind is, like, I was behind, like,
Okay. Okay.
behind.
Okay.
And really, like I said, my dad he retired. I don't know if it was just because of me. There's a lot of stuff going on. We had a lot of
Right.
kids. So he was like, I just need to be here. I need to be,
How many kids are there? You're one of how many now?
So I'm one of 12, but 7 of us grew up
Woo.
yeah, so I have a blended family. So 12 of us, I mean, but 7 of us grew up in a household. So
Mhm.
it was never a dull moment in our
Right.
house. And then I think it was really then just a lot of things were going on. And my dad was like, okay, I gotta just come back. I gotta retire, because they get sent on different assignments. And he was like,
Right.
I need to be at home. I think he
Mhm.
realized we were just in those really crucial years that we
Okay.
needed some guidance in a lot of different areas. So what I think was, so again, remember, from 6th to 8th grade, I'm in special ed, so I'm not in general ed. And then
Okay.
I'm going to 9th grade,
Okay. Yes. Uh-huh.
general. So I
Okay.
am missing 6th to 8th grade education, essentially,
Okay.
right?
Mhm.
So we are like, our sessions
Mhm.
are like Fast and the Furious because he's having to catch me up on so much. Like, I'm jumping from like now just to algebra. And I had
Mhm.
no idea. Like,
Okay.
I didn't do that. I was in special ed. I was just, plus and minus. Like that's it. Addition and subtraction. That was it. So to have to jump from there to there,
Uh-huh.
we were playing catch up. And it was just what do we need to make sure you're passing? And it wasn't a lot of the foundational things that we had the time to really go over. Because I was wore out mentally. It
Mhm.
was a strain for me. And there was a lot of tears. I cry a lot. There were a
Mhm.
lot of tears, and he would just be like, "Okay, like you get up, you can't cry. We cry tomorrow. Like we got to get this work done today." So it was just a fight every day. Like I was up late trying to figure it out. A lot of that he had to like look at the work before he can really work on it with me. Before I
Okay.
cook and do all those things. So it was just so I really think that was some of it. Um,
Mhm.
and then also too, I wasn't the only child. There was a lot of attention that was needed. And remember, I was tugging, but I wasn't tugging too hard because I need everybody knowing my business in the house. So like it would be
Okay.
him.
Okay.
So I think that there wasn't a lot of true opportunity to really
Mhm.
do the work. And I think we focused on what was most important. And that was how do
Wow.
we focus on this information?
You know what? It feels like dad just didn't have the bandwidth to get all that done, and neither did
Mhm,
you.
mhm. Oh, I surely didn't.
Y'all were trying to get the homework of the day done.
Yes, mhm,
You know,
and
just
he was having to teach on top of that because I was missing so much. Mhm,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
mhm.
That was so difficult. You really have a champion in your dad.
Yes, you have no idea, yes.
Yeah. What is he saying about your journey now?
He's just so proud, honestly,
Aw.
like, he's so proud, it's hard to talk to him without getting emotional because he's just like he always goes back, "I remember when," and because he remembers when I had no clue, when I was
Wow.
just like, fighting for acceptance, fighting to just try to
Mhm.
make it, um, fighting for, like, the American dream, right, and just
Uh-huh.
trying to figure it out, doing all the right things I was supposed to, and still feeling limited. But he never gave me an out. Like he never allowed me to feel pity or sorry for myself. And there were times, honestly, like I wanted to, and I was mad at him that he didn't. Like I felt like he
Okay.
was taking away from my struggle. But what I
Mhm.
realized is he was just speaking life into me, and he wouldn't allow me to settle because I needed that. So one
Mhm.
thing about me, um, I just feel like there's power in partnership. And
Okay.
sometimes in myself, I feel like, man, I can't do this. But if I know that someone's riding with me and they're in it with me, I feel like I could do anything. And that is so comforting. And the moment that I feel like I'm alone and I'm by myself and someone's not in it
Wow.
with me, that's
Mhm.
where, my focus shifts. And I feel like, man, I can't do this. And what does this look like? And maybe not me. I'm not good enough. And I start going down the rabbit hole of I'm not good enough. So to know that like he was riding with me, like you have no idea how many times like I came over crying and he was like, just give me your book, come back in 2 hours. And he would
Wow.
read it and then try to put it in a language that I understood.
You had
So
a ride or die dad. You got a ride
listen,
or die
you
dad.
have no idea. Yes, definitely.
That is beautiful.
Yeah. So, and he's just so proud. Like when I talk to him, he's just like, I'm so proud. Like he is he's just so proud. And he's a silent cheerleader.
Mhm.
He doesn't have to be the loudest. He doesn't have to be, oh, I can do all these things. He's just really silent. And it's in those moments and spaces that I'm like, oh man, okay. Like this is great. My mom is equally as proud where she feels like, well, I was trying to make it work and I was trying to like work jobs because my mom is one of those things always want us to have the best. And
Right.
sometimes we don't always need the best, but your parents want the best for you. So she was
Mhm.
working, and she's a huge supporter, and they're both equally proud, and that's just amazing. And then yeah, like I said, like I come from a blended family, so
Mhm.
my all of my parents were just so proud and they're supporting in like the best ways that they know how, and it feels really good. It just feels good to know that like they're riding with me and they're supporting me, so that's like amazing. So yeah,
That's awesome. I'm curious, now that your siblings
yeah.
know,
hmm
what are they saying?
A lot they're like, I had no idea.
Mhm. Mhm.
And a lot of it, I've been really distant, like in the relationships. too, because again, a mechanism of not being exposed.
Mhm.
But they're just as proud, they post, like, and share, and they tell
Aw.
their friends, and, they'll show up for different events, and they'll support.
Mhm.
So that's nice. It's a little hard a little bit because it's like, I feel exposed.
Right,
Kind of
yeah.
feel a little like, I don't want to say like a fraud, but maybe a little bit like, man, I hid and concealed a lot. So,
Mhm.
that's a little challenging because I just, in a weird space at that time, I felt like I had to protect myself. And the best way was just to stay to myself and make sure no one knew. So,
Mhm.
just seeing those relationships a little different, how they're trying to support to volunteer in different aspects of the
Mhm.
nonprofit. It's been really cool. Yeah, it's been cool. So, like, I'm the big sister. So
Aw,
that's my big sister. So that's
that's amazing.
yeah.
That is amazing. I mean, and there's a reality that we have to deal with because sometimes people have to grow into the maturity it takes to handle certain
Mhm.
things. And the relationship itself has to grow into the maturity it takes
Mhm.
to handle certain things.
Yeah.
And sometimes what is important to me is not safe with you. So I
Mhm.
have to guard it. I
Yep.
have to guard it.
Yeah. Mhm. Absolutely. And it's one of those things, and I think, now that I've shared and people have been so great, I'm looking back like, man, all this time I thought the worst was gonna happen and it didn't. But you can't go back and really wish I shoulda, coulda, woulda. You're just here
Mhm.
now, and I'm grateful that
Mhm.
everyone has been so supportive and loving. No one
Mhm.
has made me feel less than, and that's what I was afraid of, right? So,
Mhm.
but I had to protect it, and I still protect it to this day. Like,
Mhm.
I'm like, I never wanted to share in a negative manner. I always wanted to share when it was positive and uplifting because my goal is to uplift others and it's to give others hope. And I don't need to be another person that's telling you how bad this thing failed us or how this, like, what is it, where is that going to get us? Like, I want to be a person of solution. So, yeah, yeah.
And I love that. I love that you said that because really, I see you as a person that kept this secret safe until you had the fluency to share it where it empowered other
Mm,
people.
yeah,
You know, at no point do I feel drugged down by your journey. I understand it was hard, but
yeah,
I don't feel drugged down
yeah,
um, by your journey at all. And I think that is because of your mindset with it, and that you have enough peace and enough empowerment to
mhm,
share it in that special way.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And that was the goal. I tell myself when I get afraid, I just say, I'm doing this for other people who are afraid to share, to show light and that there's hope. And that grounds me a lot of the time
Mhm.
because it can still be scary, Mhm.
Now, you're extremely articulate, right? Were you this articulate when you couldn't read?
So, yes, because of the speech therapy.
Ah.
Yeah. So kids used to make fun of me. They'd be like, "Oh, she's so proper," but I was being trained because I stuttered so bad. It was on my W. Sometimes it happens when I get excited and I just hear my dad, "Baby, slow down, just calm down. It's okay."
Okay, okay.
But so because of that, the speech therapy, it helped me to really pronounce my words very
Mhm.
clearly and just in that. So yeah, and then the movies helped. I'm telling you, it helped so much to just be able to have
Absolutely.
a conversation. Mhm.
You know, I was in a conversation one time, and I've never verified this, but I was in a conversation and a person told me that people who stuttered had a higher degree of intelligence. Have you ever
Oh,
heard that? Have you ever heard that?
I haven't heard that, but I'm not surprised by it.
Mhm.
Because even people who can't read, they're intelligent because
Mhm.
my thought process in that is we don't read well or we can't read, but we still
Mhm.
function in life and we find other ways to make it work. So there's no way. So you have to think about I'm having to use so many other tools just to
Mhm.
be successful. because I lack such an essential skill. So it was the creativity and doing all these things. So that takes intellect to do. I didn't think that before, but I definitely do now. Because when you think about it, you adjust and you adapt. You're like, okay, survival mode, how do I make this work? So just like we hear like autistic kids or people are so smart, and most
Mhm.
people look at that as oh, maybe they're not, but they are. They're so intelligent. So I haven't verified that either, but I'm not surprised by that.
Yeah. Well, you know what? We're furthering the rumor.
Yes, we are.
We're getting the positive rumor mill started
Yes.
on that. As we round up here, I wanted to talk a little bit about policies regarding education that
Mhm,
you think were well meant, but
mhm,
maybe not really worked. You mentioned a No Child Left Behind.
yeah.
Um, and although it was intended for good, it wasn't executed in a way
Mhm.
that was functional. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so essentially, and this is let me say this disclaimer first. In school systems, they're trying out all these things, different, philosophies and different things on what's going to work.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
it takes time to realize it doesn't work before they shift it to something else, right?
Okay,
I think
fair
we
enough.
already have so many people that kind of get through. So, and just part of the No Child Left Behind is it's not failing. It's, are they trying? Are they showing up? Putting them in, special education classes, whatever that looks like, and still moving them along the way. So maybe there is more, support that's needed, or there is I can't think of what the word is right now, but like when you're taking tests or modifications and just different things
Hmm.
to kind of help them along the way. But in that, um, are you really making sure they grasp all the information? And especially with reading, it's a foundational skill and it shows build upon. So if you don't get the foundation solid, you're building on unsolid ground. So
Okay.
it's always going to be, there's going to be cracks and holes and just different things that don't allow it to be as stable as it needs to be. Um, but I think it was just, and I don't want to say pushing people through, but I think another aspect of like, how do they not feel left behind? How are they still moving forward? And you'll hear a lot of people kind of talk negative, like, oh yeah, and this is, someone got through school and can't even
Mhm.
read. Good job, No Child Left Behind law. And it's kind of one of those things like,
Mm.
oh, okay, well, yeah, there we are. You know? So
Wow.
I think the intention is well, but there's
Mhm.
still, different things. They're again trying to figure it out. And you don't know the results of things until it happens. Like, let's be real, COVID it happened and it was a thing. And there's, at the end of 2020, they pushed those kids through because
Yeah, they did.
so, so what is that going to look like in a year or two or four from now, right? So
Mhm.
it's just trying to do the best in the circumstances, and everyone knew, how challenging and hard all of that was. So kind of in the same, I think the intention as well, but they're trying to figure it out as they go, and then it's the course corrective. Okay, that didn't work. Let's try this. Let's do this. So yeah. Mhm.
Wow. You know what? This is going to sound, and listen, I am spreading a rumor that I do not know to be true, and it is from a conversation with a knowledgeable person, so I don't feel too bad about it. But they told me that children of Asian descent actually did well during COVID.
Mm. What was their reasoning or rationale behind that?
It was a part of a larger conversation.
Uh,
I have the great fortune, the great blessing and fortune to talk to people in a lot of different countries, to talk to a lot of different experts, and they were teaching me something about
mm,
culture and
mm,
um, atmosphere inside the home. And so
mm,
that was their reasoning for bringing it up, and it was like, for instance, children of Asian descent did actually well in COVID. They found that they improved in testing, whereas people from this particular background really fell behind. Da da da. Da. And so
Mhm.
they were just quoting statistics. I'm going to have to go back to them and just ask them, where did you actually find that? But it would be great if someone has access to look that up. I would love it, love it, love it. Please get back with us to
Yeah.
in the chat. You can always give us a ring on our feedback line at 786-530-1960. We take haters, congratulators, all of that. We take it all. We take it all because we're always trying to grow and improve here.
Mhm.
Just a little bit about our poll as we conclude. 61% of people who took the poll said that they do know someone
Mhm.
who cannot read.
Mhm.
Mhm. So it is not, certainly not unheard of at all, and which is why your work is so important, Deidra.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's affecting more people than people realize.
Mm-hmm.
And if we also throw in, people that are functionally literate, that's a
Yeah.
whole different ball
Mm-hmm.
game that opens up so much. So it's it's not uncommon. People
Mm-hmm.
aren't talking about it, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not uncommon. So yeah, definitely, it is.
Wow.
It's a big world issue,
Mm-hmm.
and you have some that even if you're functionally illiterate, you're still functioning, but not to the level that you want to really do well in society. But you have some that don't have that at all. But again, how is that limiting you? How is that keeping you stuck in the same job, in the same roles, with the same income? Because
Wow.
lack of
Wow.
skill to do more, right? So,
Um,
yeah. Hmm.
so, I always have so many things in my brain, but I'm curious what's in your brain.
Hmm.
What's a question that you wish people would ask you, but they generally fail to do so?
Um, oh, how really, my question is, how can I help someone who I think struggles with reading? Mhm.
Ooh, that's an awesome question.
Yeah. Mhm.
So, how can I
Yeah.
how can I help someone who I think is struggling with reading? That's a really good question. So
Yeah.
glad you asked.
Yeah. So, great question. I think just being aware of the
Mhm,
conversations that you're having. Even
mhm.
when you're complaining, I'm going to give an example. You're complaining about your boss or a friend. Oh, they're just so dumb. They probably can't even read and they can't even spell. And
Oh,
be
wow.
mindful about your conversations that you're having
Mhm,
because you never know who shares in that very thing that you're attacking in that moment due to frustration,
mhm,
and just that negativity that you're kind of putting out there because it's going to shut that person down
mm,
so I think one, being mindful of your talk and the things that you choose to say. Um, and if you're frustrated, just talk about why you're frustrated. Don't look at ways to like belittle someone, especially in
okay.
the area, because that's the first thing that we do. We attack someone's intellect. They're just
Yes,
dumb, and
yeah.
they probably get whatever that looks like. But be mindful of that. Even when you're playing, even one of those things. If someone uses a word that is probably a little too big for them, and you go, "Well, spell it." That is
Oh,
not
yeah.
positive.
Right,
That
right.
shuts them down.
Mhm,
So being mindful of those things. Being mindful if you know you can't spell something like, "Oh, I'm just dumb." Like how sometimes we'll say that. Being
uh-huh.
mindful of then what is someone else projecting on themselves because you said that about yourself. So I think just being
Wow.
if you're around someone and you think that's the case, be mindful of your talk. You should be mindful of your talk anyway, but around
Mhm.
those individuals, be mindful because if that is a case, well, now they don't want to say nothing to you because they saw how you just bashed your brother because you
Mhm.
know or whatever that looked like. So I think just being aware, being
Mhm.
aware of what you choose to say.
If you're just joining us here at the close, what I think has been most powerful about our conversation is how Deidra made the connection between her ability to read and the connection to the rest of her life, her mental health, her emotional health, her romantic success, her connection with uh, religion and God, and the place she held in society.
Mhm.
What it didn't break, and it's because it didn't break her spirit, was her desire to be great. That was never broken in you. It didn't break your relationship with the vision for your future.
Mhm.
And I think that is why we are the where you are. That's why you are where you are.
Mhm.
Not that that will happen for everybody. It's just
Right.
that you've been blessed with that ability to keep that vision
Mhm.
and to be a champion for everyone else who shares, your journey.
Yeah. Mhm.
Hmm.
That
Hmm.
is, yes, that is the goal. I want to encourage those who share in my exact story, who are sharing in my story, right? Who are
Hmm.
trying to fix it and working at it and still trying to figure out like how to give back. Like that is, it's so important. So yeah.
Excellent. So, where can everyone find you? How can they support you at Reading to New Heights? How are we getting this done?
Yeah, so we are on the majority of social media platforms. So, Reading to New Heights is the name of the nonprofit. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and so that's there. Our website is readingtonewheights.org.
Hmm.
You can send any emails to info@readingtonewheights.org.
Hmm.
So we are, that's Reading to New Heights, just Google, and you will find us.
Hmm.
Google is your best friend. We
Hmm.
are definitely, we always want to welcome more adult learners, but truly we are in the need of volunteers that are certified educators that are willing to volunteer a minimum of 4 hours a week to truly, and that will allow them to pour into two adult learners' lives. That is nothing when you think about it.
Hmm.
And donations, obviously, we're a nonprofit. So,
Right.
in some of the things that we're trying to do, donations are always helpful. And really, our goals and our efforts are to be able to get more instructors so that we can start tackling this huge list that we have of adults who need support and who need help. Um, but yeah, and just sharing, really, like just sharing, talking about it, being positive, not shaming. Awareness is so huge in this topic because so many people are affected. There is 43 million adults in this world that cannot read above a third grade level and that
Mm.
struggle to just read a children's book to their children. So it's a
Oh,
problem, and it's huge. And if you're local in Dallas, we have, it's estimated that by 2030 there'll be 1 million illiterate adults. So those are adults that cannot read or write at all, not functionally,
oh,
just
wow.
illiterate. So hearing just those, like, it's devastating.
Hmm.
And something has to be done. And I think it starts with awareness. It starts with sharing. It starts with empowering people to speak
Hmm.
up and say that they need the help, um,
Hmm.
because there's help out there. Mhm.
Wow. My final thought is this, and it's kind of a tough one, but we use our tax dollars to build private jails.
Mhm.
It would be smart to use our tax dollars to build better futures.
Yes, absolutely.
A hundred,
Absolutely.
a
Yes.
100%. So thank you, family, for spending this time with me. Thank you, Deidra, for participating in the best energy on the planet here at Understanding. You know what? We're always blessed by the Holy Spirit. We just are. So that's why I know this is
Right.
the best energy on the planet hanging out with us. I can't thank you enough. I'm looking forward to watching you and your journey and your vision explode into good things and bigger and better and reach bigger and better heights.
Thank
So
you.
that's going to be amazing. Stay in touch and stay tuned.
I
Um,
will.
bye bye for now, family.
Bye. Thank you.